Hello and welcome to the Abundantly Successful Show, the show for conscious entrepreneurs who have the deep desire to turn their passion into a successful and thriving business, all while making a big impact in the world. I'm your host, Kay Sanders, and I'm also known as the creator of possibilities. And I'm super excited that you're tuning in for this very, very first interview-based episode of the Abundantly Successful Show. Yesterday was the very, very first solo episode when I launched this show, so I'm super excited that you're tuning in again. And I'm also excited to bring you an amazing expert who's going to share with us today about forgiveness and how we can really step into our own courage to become more successful in our business. So our expert for today is Cheryl Piper Snyder. She is a relationship and transformational coach, a speaker, heart math coach, and I'm definitely going to ask her what that means, and a conversational IQ and assertiveness coach. So like I said, she's going to tell us a little bit about, forgiveness and, stepping into our own courage so we can really become even more successful in our business. With that said, let me introduce you to Cheryl Piper Snyder. Hello, Cheryl. Thanks for being here. Great to have you.
Oh, hi, Kay. Thank you so much for inviting me on your show. And I am so honored to be on your first interview show. What an honor. So thank you so much.
No, it's definitely great to have you. So before we kind of dive into the topic, why don't you share with us a little bit of like who you are, what you do, and definitely cover also what that heart math coach means. I'm really curious about that. And just so we can kind of get to know you a little bit better.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I do say I'm a relationship coach. I have lots of different certifications and degrees, and I just wrap it all together into just calling myself a relationship coach. Because whether that relationship is with ourselves in a business situation, with us in a personal situation, meaning a spouse or friends, or if that is with ourselves, our relationship with ourselves, which is the big one. So it's a lot of times when I get into working with people, we may be stepping into a business situation, but we end up in let's look at what's going on internally. Let's that relationship with oneself. Because until we're in a space in that relationship where we have built that self-esteem, that self-worth, we've let go of all of those issues from our past, then we can move forward. So most of the time that foundation work is in that one-on-one working with our relationship with ourselves. And then we can step into all of those other relationships. But we got to get that one on track first, because it really leads into all of the others. So what I say is that my only job is to help you to discover and release the things that are holding you back from living the life that you want.
You're definitely speaking my language here. I mean, I always say, success is an inside job, and then it kind of goes down to like what you said, like the forgiveness, letting go of the past and stuff. But now, why is it really so important? Like when we talk about forgiveness, why do we really need to forgive, or what do we need to forgive in order to really become more successful in our business?
Well, let's just lead in and talking about this. Let's say that you're in a situation let's just say it's a business situation, or maybe it is a personal situation. It could be either, but it seems like there's a repetitive pattern happening. There's something going on that seems like, wow, this is going really great. Everything's happening the way I want. And then all of a sudden you come up against this wall, and then everything just stops, and everything starts to feel like it's kind of closing in on you, and you can feel that saboteur coming up in you, because that's what it is. It's the saboteur, and it is stopping you from moving forward with that thing that you really, really want to do. But you've got these underlying issues that you need to look at, you need to acknowledge, and you need to release. And when we can release those issues, then we aren't making decisions about our future from our past. Because when those issues, when we keep dragging all that stuff around with us, I don't mean to be so dramatic, but I am. When we keep dragging all of that baggage around, we're actually making decisions for our future based on all that old stuff, because that's the programming. That's what keeps, that's the voice that keeps going over and over in our mind and saying, oh, you don't deserve that, or, oh, you're not good enough for that, or who do you think you are? You can't do that. Those type of that voice that is talking with us, and we all have that voice. Yeah. It's just moving through what that voice is and flipping the thought pattern around, so that now the voice is speaking to you saying, you know what, you can do that. You know what, I think I can do that. And creating that positive thought pattern rather than something that's going to sabotage us. And so this is where we start with this road of forgiveness. And the reason being is because it will block and stop you from being able to live the life that you want, because it's creating your future with all the wounds of the past. And being able to let that go is a job, and it is a process. But I mean, I think about people, and I'm sure even your audience members out there, you can think about someone that you know that tells the same story over and over and over again. And let's say you're somebody new, like you just come into this group and you're listening to this story. Well, you're thinking, my goodness, this is horrendous. This just happened, and this poor person, and because they tell it so fresh, and they have so much life and juice that they've put into it, that you think it just happened to them. And then you find out, what? It happened 10 years ago? What? This happened 15 years ago? Wow. And they're still talking about it, putting all this life into it. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. By putting all that life into it, and what you're doing is you're feeding that perception, because that's what it is it's a perception of reality, and you're feeding your life force into that past situation that you're keeping alive. Nobody else is keeping it alive.
No, you know what? I love that you shared that. And I think, like, let's use an example. Like, I know that was like one of the biggest challenges that I had when I first started out, was like, I don't get no clients. There are no clients. No one wants to work with me. And I kept repeating the same thing over and over and over again. And then I was really sitting there wondering, well, why don't I have clients? Why do I only get those people that don't want to pay me, that they want to work with me, but they don't want to pay me? So that's like the story that I kept telling myself. So it sounds like that's exactly what you were mentioning by keeping something alive, even though it happened like many, many years ago. It seems like did I kind of connect the dots here?
Yes. And you also gave us a segue into another subject, which is the law of attraction. Because in what you were just stating, in, what you were saying about, I don't attract any clients. Why isn't anybody coming to me? I don't attract the people I want. Basically what you're saying, the universe is giving you what you're saying. You've set yourself up to receive exactly what you're saying. And so we need to be careful of how we speak about these things and turn it around and look at it as to what we want. I had a really interesting situation. I was talking with my brother and sister-in-law a couple of weeks ago, and I really don't remember the subject of the question that he asked. But when he asked the question, it was something about, what do I really want to do with my life? Or, we were just kind of having this discussion. And I started to walk through all of these things that I'm doing and how, things are moving in this direction and this is where I'm going. And he said, it's very interesting how you answered that question. He said, when I ask most people that question, they start telling me everything they don't want. And I said, you're exactly right. And I said, and then they wonder why that keeps showing up. Yeah. And he said, exactly. He said, but you you started telling me everything that you're doing, everything that you're moving toward, everything that you're going to make happen. There wasn't one don't in your statement. And so that is us turning around the way we think. I mean, Wayne Dyer, what was that book? Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. That he wrote, I don't know, what was that? Maybe 15 years ago? Probably. And these things really do matter.
Yeah.
We need to flip around that negative thought pattern into a positive thought pattern. And the way that we do that is by letting go of all this baggage that we're carrying around. And I always talk about it like that because I picture people just lugging these suitcases all over they're just lugging these heavy suitcases. And you know what I also picture every time I talk about this? I picture the old movie A Christmas Carol, where Jacob Marley is that big chain he's carrying around when he comes to see Ebenezer Scrooge. And Ebenezer Scrooge says, why do you carry this big chain? Why are you dragging this big chain around with you? And he said, this is the chain I forged in life. I made it link by link. And that's the type of baggage that people are carrying around with them, and they don't even realize it. And when you do realize it and you sit it down and you let it go, I always hear the same. I don't like to use the word always because I usually hear the same term from each person. I feel so much lighter. Well, yes, you do feel so much lighter because look at all the stuff you just sat down and you're not dragging around with you anymore. You do not need it. It serves no purpose to you because everything that we have experienced and learned from our past is in us. Mm-hmm. It is part of us. We have learned from it, and we move forward to the future with those positive lessons rather than leaving ourselves all over the place. This is what I say to people. When you put all that energy into something from the past, you're actually putting your precious, precious life force into that perception. I mean, it's not even a real thing. It is a perception of something that happened in the past. Yeah. And
no, I love what you said. But now let's kind of look at you mentioned once people realize, and I think that is the biggest challenge most people have is you have to realize what's really that baggage. So do you have maybe some ideas, some tips or whatever, so that people can really do to, first of all, realize what's really holding them back from the past? What's the pain? What's the struggle? What are those change or the baggage that they're having? And what can they do to really let go of that? Because I think that's the first thing is first you got to realize and then you got to let go of it. So do you have some tips around that on what people can do about that?
Well, what I would say first of all is being willing. Being willing is so important. Being willing to step into whatever it is we need to look at. And that comes with courage. So having the courage to be willing to look at ourselves and to look deep down inside and acknowledge what's going on. I mean, things happen to all of us, and some of them are absolutely horrible. We need to be able to look at those things and allow them to disperse, allow them to come up and out so that they can disperse. Because the more we swallow them down, well, guess what? They're still there, right?
Yeah.
And if they're there, they are steering your future. Mm-hmm. So when people say, well, I understand what you're talking about with forgiveness, but how do you start? And I normally say this first is nobody wants to forgive. You want to forgive. You want to forgive. It's a push it first. It's a push it. Mm-hmm. It's not something that's natural. It's not something that we've learned to do. And so it's a new process. And forgiveness doesn't mean that what you did was okay. It's not that. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is releasing any hold that any situation from the past or perception has on me in my energy space, or that has on you. You're making that choice. This is where courage comes in. This is where being willing to step into courage, because this isn't an easy thing. No. And it's scary. Having fear doesn't mean, or having courage doesn't mean you don't have fear. I said that backward. Having courage means that you're afraid, but you're going to do it anyway. Mm-hmm. You're stepping up to that next level of vibrational energy, of frequency. I'm trying to think of the best word. Those are the best words for it, because it's a different thought pattern mm-hmm. in our brain, in our energy system. When we step into courage, we step across the threshold of possibilities, and that we can move into what I was saying, willingness. We can move into acceptance. We can move into joy. We can move into peace. We can move into that unconditional love. That's where all of those feelings live. That's where all those energies live. They're past courage. We have to step into courage first and be willing to look at ourselves. Because so many times what happens is people are trying to control other people, which is just the biggest illusion of all. And it's never going to get you where you want to be. It's going to keep you trapped. It's going to keep you trapped in a space of fear. It's going to keep you trapped in that perception or that story. And a lot of times people will take a specific situation, and I believe that new wounds need consoling. Absolutely. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to you, and now what? This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me, and now what? What am I going to do next? How am I going to move through this? How am I going to walk through this? And that's allowing that process to start to happen. That's allowing that healing process to start to happen. That's saying, I'm going to walk through this tunnel. It's dark. I can't see a darn thing. I have to trust that there's a light at the end of this tunnel and keep walking forward through whatever pain is here, through whatever perceptions I'm perceiving it to be, and understand that I'm stepping through this challenge and I'm moving to my new life, which is going to be that space of true forgiveness. And when I say true forgiveness, this means that we are letting go of those things in the past that hold us back from living the life that we want. It's kind of back to that statement I made earlier, because when we can do that, and people will say, well, how do I know I've really forgiven something? How do I know? And I say, you know when you've really forgiven something, because when you speak about it, it doesn't ignite any cell in your body. It doesn't create any type of a feeling of weakness or pain or pulling you down into fear. It has simply moved to wisdom. And when we move into that space of true forgiveness and allow these things to be part of the past and to disperse, that's what it moves to. It moves into wisdom, and then we get to help others. And then we get to share those stories with others, because there's going to be somebody that's in a situation that you've gone through. There's going to be someone there that maybe is going through it now. And you went through it, 2 years ago, and you've come through this forgiveness space. And now you can share and help the next person. So I don't even know if I answered you. I just kind of went on.
No, I totally love it. I mean, I just kind of like want to kind of go back real quick, point out something that I think is so very important, because I also see that happening a lot, like with people that I talk to, with my clients, is like being willing and being open to really seeing what's going on. And I know from my own journey, it's like, when you're not open to really seeing, like being brutally honest with yourself, what's going on. And it kind of brings me to what one of my coaches had told me once, which at first I thought he was totally nuts, but he said that everything is happening to you, not for you, not to you, but for you. And yeah. I'm like, I suffer from fibromyalgia. I used to have PTSD. I'm like, why would that, happening for me? Why, But then when I really sat with it, I really realized, it led to who I am today. It led me to walk away from my job. It led me to connect with people at a much deeper level. But it was also, I had to be willing to see it that way. And I have I've talked to so many people that are just simply resisting to really seeing like underneath the surface, like what's really going on. And that kind of brings me to the next question, like how does all that really affect your business, your success, the joy you have in your life, the freedom that you have in your life, the things you want to create in your life? How does all that affect you if you're really holding on to the past, the pain, and not really being willing and able to really step into seeing it for what it is and really seeing it for the higher truth that it really is?
Well, I guess I could step into a lot of different areas here with that. And I would say one is when we hold on to the stories, and that's what they are, they're stories from the past. What it can do is the more we feed it, as I talked about earlier, someone's talking about a story and you think, wow, this is awful, it just happened to them, and you find out it happened 10 years ago. What they've done is they have shifted what the energy of that situation was. Because just as your coach was saying to you, things are not happening to you, they're happening for you. And so when those situations are happening for you, it's allowing you to move through a situation. And when you don't, and you turn the story into something else, the energy shifts, and then you become a victim. And when you're stepping into a victim mentality, and that's how you lead your life, think about it in a business. I mean, if you're in business and you're working with people and you lead off with your story, your victim story, how many times are people really going to want to hear that?
Yep. I think it's important to share your story, but I think it's sharing the story
from a place of power.
Yes, empowering people. I know I have shared my story many times, and I was able to empower people that they saw I've come from all this and got to here. But I was never in the point like, oh yeah, I had PTSD and it totally ruined my life. I had, fibromyalgia, it totally ruins my life.
That's exactly what I'm saying. That's that victim story. That's that victim mentality of the story of just creating that space for yourself. But coming from a place of power is what I was talking about earlier. In when you step through forgiveness, it turns to wisdom. And then you can speak about it from a place of power. Because it doesn't ignite any of those victim type or thought processes in you. You're actually standing on your story. You're not standing in your story anymore.
I love it. Now, how can someone really notice what's going on? Because I know for myself, and I see it for a lot of other people, it's like noticing the things that we think, the things we say, the stories we stick to. I think that is like the most challenging part, is really realizing that we are on a negative track. So do you have some tips around that? How can we really realize what's going on so we can then make a choice to change things around?
Well, that's a beautiful question, Kay. I love it. I would say, once again, I'm going to come back to the word being willing. Because we need to be willing to look at ourselves and That's not pretty. A lot of times I know, I've been there. It's not pretty, and we don't want to do it. But I depend on those people who are closest to me in my life. Once again, I have to first be willing to look at myself. And second of all, I have to be willing to make a statement like I'm about to tell you right now. I say to like the people that are closest to me, when you hear me, especially if something happens to me, a situation happens to me, I will look at them and I will say, I need you to listen to me talk about this 3 times, and that's it. And then you've got to love me enough to walk away. You've got to love me enough to say, I am not going to give your wounds that kind of power over you, Cheryl. This is what I need from you as my friend, because I can't see it. Because sometimes you're just too close to it until someone says something like, and that's a hard order. You got to have a really close friend to be able to, and a really close relationship for someone to be able to say that to you, but giving them permission to say that to you. And I've had that happen. I mean, I've had that happen in my life. I mean, we all have gone into that space, you know, and I've had people say, Cheryl, okay, you know, we've heard this 3 times. This is like the 4th or 5th. We need you to move through this. And I may not have realized it because it may have been something that was it jarred me so much that I may not have realized that I'd already told that story that many times. Mm-hmm. And that jars me when someone says it. I'm like, oh, okay. And then that puts me in check. It puts me in check looking at myself saying, okay, now what am I going to do with this? I've got to move through this. And so I'm not sure if that helps.
Yeah, no, totally.
It really does come down to being willing. It comes back down to that word. We have to be willing to look at ourselves. Because this is our laboratory. This is where our job is. It's in this energy space. It's not out there anywhere. Mm-hmm. You know, our job isn't out there trying to manage anybody else's power or control anybody. Because first of all, that's an illusion, and we can't control anybody. The only thing we can control is ourselves. We cannot control situations that happen to us. We can only control how we're going to respond to them. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. So do you maybe have some tips, like on a daily basis, what can we do to really stay on track so we can really live more like a positive life?
Gratitude. Like I can't stress gratitude.
I love it.
I cannot stress gratitude enough. It is, in fact, you know, I just did just a quick little live on Facebook a few days ago on this, and it's about waking up in the morning and finding 3 things to be grateful for when we wake up, and stepping into that momentum. Because when we can find gratitude, and I mean, it can be something simple like, wow, my pillow is really comfy, you know, wow, look, the sunshine is coming through my blinds. You know, oh, I hear the birds singing. Oh, my wind chimes are going, you know, just anything to be grateful for. We create positive momentum behind it, and it moves us in that positive direction for the day. Now, it works the other way too. You know, we wake up and we get out of bed and we stub our toe, and then we hit the door handle as we're trying to go out, and it's just like, oh my goodness, what kind of day is this? And we have started negative momentum going. And if people can just realize and remember this one thing, we can change that with the power of one thought, which is my tagline on my logo, you're only one thought away, ... Because that's it. We can flip this around with one thought. When we get in, I get in that, when we get in that space, I say, oh, wait a minute here. I'm going to flip this around. You know, all right, let's think about something I'm grateful for. Mm-hmm. Once again, back to gratitude. It will flip that. What it does is it changes your energy. Mm-hmm. It changes the space, the energetic space that you're in. And it puts you at a different frequency. and moving forward in that frequency is what we want. That's that positive momentum going behind us. Mm-hmm. And it starts with gratitude.
And I think one thing I kind of want to add to that is, because I think a lot of people might not know that it's like, it's not just being grateful, like thinking grateful thoughts, but also feeling the feeling. Because I mean, I've done it before where I said, yeah, I'm so grateful I have a roof over my head, but I wasn't in here. And I'm like, hold on, this doesn't feel right. You know, it didn't give me that nice feeling, right? So I'm like, okay, I checked in with myself and I really got into my heart space. And I was like, I'm so grateful for the beautiful home I have. And I said it with feeling, like, even if it's just in my mind, but it's really, it's such a difference when you say it with feeling. Because I mean, I believe everything is about feeling anyways, even though people might not like feeling, you know, all the lovey-dovey feeling stuff. But when it comes to gratitude, I think that's like the missing key is really be in the feeling of gratitude. And that's when really things shift around. Or how do you feel about that?
I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I so live in that space. Sometimes I forget a little bit. So thank you so much for bringing that up. The feeling that you're pushing out to the universal source, whatever you want to call that, God, you know, I say God, the feeling that you're pushing out, that is what's coming back to you. That is what you're attracting. And so the feeling is extremely important. Because when we come back to the law of attraction doesn't understand what you say. The law of attraction understands what you feel. Because you can say all day long, oh, I feel great, I feel great, I feel great. And you're thinking, oh, I feel terrible. Oh, my goodness. and so what's the energy that you're putting out? It doesn't matter what the words are you're saying. What's the energy you're putting out? You can say all day long, I feel great. If the energy you're putting out is, I feel awful, that's what's going out. And so, and that's what is being picked up on. And that's what's coming back. And so, yes, it is so important to feel the feeling of gratitude. And that comes into what you were asking way back at the beginning of Heart Math and me being a Heart Math coach. Heart Math is about creating that connection between the head and the heart, creating that coherence between the head and the heart, so that we are sitting in that heart space and sending and radiating out those feelings, because that's where the power is.
Yep, that's where the power and the magic lies. So I think that's like the perfect cue to, end this first episode. I mean, if anyone would like to get a hold of you, where can people find you? Where can they reach out to you? Where can they find out more about you?
Well, you can go to my website, which is CherylPiper.com. I kept it very simple. You can reach me on Facebook. My business page on Facebook is at Cheryl Piper Sends Love, because that's what I do. I'm sending out the love. And you can find me on LinkedIn. What is my LinkedIn address? I think it's just Cheryl PS, LinkedIn /
I believe so. But the links will be with you send me all the links, so they will definitely be within the show notes.
Yeah, so please reach out. Please the best place to contact me is on Facebook, really. And just, send a message, say, hey, I saw you, you saw me on the show and you wanted to touch base. If you have any questions, absolutely, I am there to help in any way I can.
Well, thank you, Cheryl, for being here, for being my very first guest, especially on July the 11th, 11/11 and number 1. So that's definitely a great number, to get started with. So, thank you again for being here. I mean, I really enjoyed this episode, and I think we covered a lot of great content to really help people understand, it's about the feeling, it's about forgiving, and most of all, willing to stepping into that. So thanks again for being here. I had a lot of fun with you.
Thank you so much, Kay. I had so much fun, and thank you so much for inviting me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. And I also want to thank you guys, for tuning in for this very, very first episode of the interview episode of the Abundantly Successful Show. Now, if you like this episode, if you have any comments, if you would like to just kind of share your 2 cents, leave a comment below. Also, like this episode, share it with anyone that you know of that would benefit from listening to this. And also make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, because I will release more episodes each week, each Tuesday and Wednesday. So if you subscribe to my channel, you will get notified when the next episodes come out. And let me tell you, I already have an amazing lineup of, the next coming speakers, so you definitely don't want to miss it. So make sure you subscribe. Now, with that said, thank you again for being here, and I hope you have an abundantly and successful day. Thanks for being here. See you next episode.